Student Psychology Association presents a panel discussion today on talk about managing stress during the COVID-19 pandemic. In collaboration, we have the Psychological Support and Guidance Enterprise, PSGE, IGDS Ignite, and Psych to Survive. So today I'll be your host. My name is Emiliana Bachan. I'm also the president of SPA, and I'm going to introduce you once again if you don't know. We have Miss Stephanie Sam and we have Miss Samantha Samlal. And Miss Samantha, she represents IGDS Ignite, and Miss Stephanie represents Psych to Survive today. So let's get right into it. So I have the first question I'm gonna ask, and we're gonna just discuss about it openly. And if anybody has any comments, feel free to express your views, and we would, after responding, we would look at your comments and see how best we could help. Right? So, the first one. So, Samantha, how can you offer emotional support to friends and family and members of, like, if you're working, coworkers and stuff who have been in quarantine? How can you offer that support?
Right. Well, firstly, I would say providing emotional support is very important, especially in these times. A lot of people are suffering with a lot of anxiety, stress, depression. And one way that we can help comfort them is through spending time with them. Obviously, you can't physically be there with them, but we have technology and the internet at the tip of our fingertips, so we should really utilize that. I think what's very important is like you can switch it up. You don't just have to be talking about COVID all the time. You're gonna make more anxiety. You're gonna stress them out more. You can do many different activities on the internet. You can have prayer meetings on the internet. You can play games. You can build puzzles, watch movies. Like our options are endless, and I think it's very important that you switch it up. Things that you would normally do in person, you can definitely like replicate it via the internet and doing it virtually.
Yeah.
So, not everybody has the luxury of the internet, and I understand that, like, especially because COVID has had a great impact on people's finances. So, not everybody's gonna have that luxury, and that's fine. Something as small as calling someone to check up on them and ask them how they're doing. Asking if they need help. It is okay. I know a lot of people are gonna feel ashamed to ask for help, so we should take it upon ourselves to ask if persons need help. Do you need help? Whether it is emotional support, do you need help with finances? Do you need groceries? Things like that, small things like that are going to go a long way in helping persons and being there for your loved ones. And I think that's like you just making that small effort is definitely something that's going to go a long way.
Definitely. I agree. Because you see, the thing
Yeah.
about it is, if we don't, show that interest, everybody's gonna just continue to feel isolated and feel like, what's the purpose in life? Why it is we just get up every morning, it's the same routine, and that is why it's so crucial and important to try to stay connected, and even stay connected with yourself, not just with people, but like the things that make you you, and help you, that drive, that instinct in you to continue your day, and get up and say, I have to get this done, like I have a purpose in life, no matter what is happening around us. And that is really, really important. You had something to say, Steph?
No, it's true, because anxiety is something that so many of us are experiencing right now, and it's important that social support is so crucial at this time, because it contributes to positive emotional development. So yes, stay connected with your loved ones, reach out.
Yeah. Okay. So
Also, next thing I know, some of us, like a lot of people can't afford like the internet bill anymore because obviously you have to cut costs.
It's hard. It's
Yeah,
really hard.
someone in the area who have internet, you could politely ask. I mean, most of us got it. Like Tiffany about internet, it's fine, but you could politely ask.
Yeah.
And sharing is caring. That's another option. Don't be afraid to ask.
Yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
persons are on to support each other, and this is our time that we need to come together and to support each other.
Agreed. Okay, so the next question that I have for Samantha is, do you think in the LGBTQIA community have have been affected more during this time in the pandemic, being at home, especially with their family life? Because some families in a Caribbean might tend to have a different take on persons that are expressive about their sexuality and what gender that they, that they are reflective of. So, enlighten me on that.
Yes, I think most definitely. I'm sorry if I look this way. I just don't want to miss any points.
Okay.
Because this is it's a kind of deep topic to talk about because of the pandemic, people either forced students, we know that a lot of us have.
I'm hearing you, love. It's just I
Right.
think you pause a little bit with the
Okay.
video. That's
Yeah. So a lot of students also, I know a lot of UA students can probably relate to this. They're stuck at home with abusive parents, not in just like the physical sense. I feel like it's a lot of a verbal abuse that is happening.
yeah.
And because I know traditional parents are not going to accept a specific sexual orientation just
Right.
like that, we have a lot of people not accepting it. So I think this is definitely going to affect persons because the rate of domestic violence, whether it is physical or verbal, it has increased severely because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And because of the stress that people might have, whether it is stress with work, finances, they are going to portray that on others. So you feel stressed, you take it out on your son or your daughter or whoever. And the first thing you want to attack is something like that. You are not like me, you are different. And we have this whole thing about subsetting the community from normal society. And we need to understand that they are also members of society. But
Exactly.
it's something that is easy to pick up on because it's different. It's different, right? We see it as different. And we think about how persons are affected emotionally with anxiety and depression. It's just that we don't think about the persons who belong to the community and who might be closeted. You don't know how much persons they keep this from their families in fear. People keep it because they fear for their lives. They are in fear of not having a roof over their head. Their parents could throw them out, so they have to keep it a secret just to have a shelter and to have a meal.
Right.
So I think we definitely need to give support to our friends who we know that might, even if we're closeted or not, they need our support. And I think that that's definitely something that we need to take into consideration because a lot of persons they use work as a distraction or to stay away from home. They use school
Oh, I
to
get
stay away
away.
from home.
Yeah.
So they
When
could
they
be
feel
themselves and they can
comfortable,
express
right?
themselves in the environments that they feel comfortable. And most of the time, sadly, it's not home. You're not gonna feel comfortable to express yourself at home. That's just the sad reality about it. And so this can be very just put yourself in their shoes. You have to put on this mask all of the time and you can't be yourself. You might not speak or walk or talk the way that you do. And it's something that would put a lot of stress on individuals. You're feeling stifled and you have to put on this kind of straight behavior because you want persons in your household to just be nice to you or accept you. And it's very sad that persons have to go through it, but it is a reality. And there are a lot of persons who are closeted, who don't feel comfortable coming out because of the consequences that they have to face, especially in the household. So we need to really persons who are in those situations, I would say please do seek, emotional support from those who might know or maybe from a professional. Talk to someone because these things can trigger really dark thoughts and the last thing you want is for someone to take their own life because of it, and it's a sad reality. And I'm sorry if it's triggering to anybody, but it is a reality and we do have a lot of it happening and people don't even know, like, that person was happy, like they had their life going for them, why? But you don't know what they have to go through behind closed doors. So we definitely need to take that into consideration. I think also the fact that we have no constitution or policies that are set in place to protect these persons, it makes it more difficult for any kind of protection to be sought. Because again, like I said, having a financial dependence on your parents or whoever in your household, it definitely restricts you because there's
Yeah,
not a
the puts
shelter
a
that these
control on
persons.
them. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you can't run away from home and go to a shelter to have
Yeah.
a roof over your head, but a place where you can be accepted and
Yeah.
seek that emotional support from others who can relate to you. They don't have that opportunity.
Yeah.
And so I definitely think in that aspect, we definitely need to work on it. Um, you know, persons might be like, oh, well, it's just a little cuss out, like the tiny this and that. Like, that's not no real harm.
Definitely.
But like
Yeah.
I said, this can take someone's life. So please be kind. I know also on the internet we have trolls, we have persons being, cyberbullying and things like that. Please be aware of
Mm-hmm.
your words and how they can affect persons. Uplift people. Speak kind
Yeah.
words to them. You don't know what someone is going through, and the mask that they put on. Everybody that smiles is a happy person. So please be kind
Exactly.
to everybody, even if you don't like them. If you have nothing nice to say, don't say it. As I
Yeah.
would say, be kind to persons, and especially the people you see every single day with. Your energy definitely is going to affect theirs. So, yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, and I think that especially with the LGBTQIA community, let's just say, for example, there's a person that, you know, is gay, and, okay, let's say they're a guy, and um they feel feminine. They feel that they need to put on makeup and express themselves. They want to wear dresses and all these things, but they can't do that in their home because you know what, mommy and daddy are gonna think about me, right? And that actually, it degrades the person's self-esteem. It makes them feel worthless, and they get suicidal ideation, like you were saying. And it's true, like these are the things that, like right now, especially during the pandemic, we had to think about these types of persons in these communities. How are they coping? Like, this is, it's real. They come from a family that probably is traditional. They poor parents. They want them to do certain things a certain way, but not realizing and understanding and hearing their children when they say XYZ. Like, this is who I am. You gotta accept it. Like, this is what it is. And there's something too that it comes with parenting styles too, because not I can't say for all parents. Like, some parents, they might be more, what's the word for it? They understand the kid, but they also give leeway for them to show and gain trust, and for them to understand the individual, you know, like, okay, this is what you say you are, all right. Just show me that you're gonna be, well behaved, and you're doing everything that you're supposed to do, you're doing well in school, and keep up that, and they're good, right? But then there are some of the parents who just, they have that one problem, like, why does you like that? I didn't make you like that, and they'll
We need to
tell you.
understand that someone is more than their sexual orientation.
Right, and that
It's
is
more
where
fun.
the falter, and then the child is affected, and then they cannot move forward, as an individual. So at this time, like you say, you know, persons that are probably going through this, if you know a friend or anybody, try to seek professional help. Try to get them that emotional support. If you can't give it as a friend, there are professionals out there. There's even findcare.tt.com that you could check out as well. There are tons of resources right now that is being provided, especially during the pandemic. And it's so crucial that we take it into consideration and not say, well, whatever, like, it's a life you're talking about. They are human. Just because they feel a certain type of way sexually as their sexual orientation doesn't mean that they are not, human. And that is something that we have to constantly talk about and explain, because it it's hard for some persons that grew up a certain way. I understand that, but at the same time, we have to be open minded to learn new things and realize that, listen, this is what it has always been existing. It has just been always covered and hushed as though it was something wrong, when it's not. It's just someone's being, you know, and that's what really matters. So thank you so much for expressing that, Samantha. So now I'm gonna pose two questions to Stephanie about, so let me ask you. So what if someone is like already suffering with, like, anxiety disorders, as you know, like there's social anxiety disorder. There's like a whole range in the DSM-5, right? So, right now everybody using social media to get information. So if their media coverage could be a bit triggering and whatnot, how you think, what are some tips that you can give us for persons like that to cope at this time in this sort of situation?
Okay, so anxiety is someone that everyone right now is experiencing because of the lockdown, because of the COVID-19 measures, the availabilities of vaccines and appointments, social distancing measures, loss of jobs, the high mortality rates and increase in COVID-19 cases. This has contributed to a lot of individuals' anxiety, especially those who are already living with an anxiety disorder. Now, what is an anxiety disorder? Anxiety disorders are a cluster of mental disorders characterized by a significant and uncontrollable feelings of anxiety, fear, such that a person's social, occupational, and personal function are significantly impaired. Anxiety is basically the worry about future events, while fear is the reaction to current events. So, anxiety is an emotion that all of us face. It's characterized by feelings of tension, thoughts and physical changes, such as high blood pressure, headaches, stomach aches, etc. People with anxiety disorders basically have recurring and intrusive thoughts or concerns. So there are several types of anxiety disorders, there are several types of phobias, social anxiety, general anxiety, and panic disorder. Now, panic disorder is one particular anxiety disorder that many individuals are facing in the pandemic. And it's basically when an individual feels a sudden intense fear that brings on a panic attack. So during a panic attack, someone might sweat, they might have chest pains. To help you understand what a panic attack feels like, it's like you're choking or you're having a heart attack. That clearly shows us how severe anxiety can be. Now, news coverage can definitely impact persons living with anxiety disorders in a negative way. They might cause triggers. So an anxiety trigger is basically the buildup of smaller of stressful life situations, smaller events or stressful life situations that may trigger excessive anxiety. So the news conferences that we have every single day, those are anxiety triggers to someone who's already living with anxiety, because they will be premeditating what is going to happen from before. So as soon as they see, okay, the prime minister is going to release a press conference, they already start premeditating, and that's an anxiety trigger. So while all of us are experiencing anxiety right now, what is important is how we cope. So how best can we cope in a situation like this? First of all, it's important that we get our news from trusted and reliable sources, such as the Ministry of Health and the World Health Organization. Nowadays, there's so many misinformation on the internet, and everybody's coming up with their own terms and deriving their own things about COVID and the vaccine. But it's important that we get credible sources. The information should be authentic, and thus the Ministry of Health and the World Health Organization provides us with that daily information. Secondly, it's important we take a break from social media, because too much screen time can be overwhelming. When faced with anxiety, what it feels like a constant cycle of just negative news, the best approach is to just step away. Take a break from those negative reports. For some, the anger, the hopelessness, the feeling of powerlessness can stem from sustained exposure to stressful news, can really stand in the way of being productive on a day-to-day basis. So, for example, you should switch up things a little bit. So instead of always checking the news, always checking Facebook and Instagram, do something you love, like, watching a movie, listening to music, playing with your furry pets, baking. Find something that you can do to help you cope. Art and music is a great form of therapy. So even coloring is a great form of stress reliever.
That's not
and
just
another great
yeah, they're adult coloring books, guys.
adult
Yeah.
Another great tip is journaling, where we could, journal our thoughts every day, and, having a gratitude diary where every day we could just continue writing the things we're thankful for.
Yeah.
And, as Samantha mentioned, social support is so crucial at this time. So stay connected with your family members through technology because it contributes to positive emotional development. Send a message, video call, reach out to your family members and friends through technology. It's also important that we maintain a proper and healthy diet and, practice mindfulness. Mindfulness is so important and helpful at this time. And mindfulness is basically a quality of state of being conscious and aware of something. So it brings you to the here and now. And the goal of this technique is to achieve a state of alert, focused relaxation by deliberately paying attention to the thoughts and sensations without judgment.
Right.
This allows the mind to focus on the present moment and helps alleviate tension or stress. So there are many ways we could practice mindfulness. I'm going to share two. And one way is to stop what you're doing and take a breath. We're so worried about the future because there's so many uncertainty taking place. Online schooling, work at home is so stressful. But just stop and take a breath. Take a moment to notice the sensations of your breath. Creating intentional space for resettling yourself, even with one breath will help you become calmer and more focused throughout your day. And the next one, like I said, it's important to take screen breaks. So put down your phone because, our attentional system, it's very difficult for many of us to put down our phone, but it helps alleviate your stress. It helps alleviate the stress. Your attentional system is put towards the most stimulating thing around you. And right now, the most stimulating thing around us is a phone. But if you just put it down for a second and, out of your sight and out of your reach, because if it's in your reach, you'll unconsciously pick it up and don't realize it. So, take it out of your sight and, just meditate and relax because, like I said, social media is so overwhelming, and it's important we take care of ourselves mentally. It's important we practice breathing exercises as well because breathing exercises helps us to calm down, and it eases the stress because deep breathing exercises, it sends a message to your brain to calm down and relax. So a great tip is to remember smell the flower, blow the candle, which basically means inhale, exhale.
I love that. Oh my God.
It helps a lot with, calming down and de-stressing. And lastly, another great tip that you guys could try is the 5-4-3-2-1 coping technique for anxiety. And this is a grounding technique. And what this grounding technique does is it brings you to the here and now. It's simply effective. It's very simple, but it's an effective method to help regain control of your mind when anxiety threatens to take over. It basically involves the 5 senses, right? So what you have to do is to pause, breathe, and acknowledge 5 things you can see around you. It could be anything. It could be, if your room, the color of your room. It could be a pen. It could be anything. Then after you acknowledge that, you acknowledge 4 things that you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. And what it does, it helps calm you down, and it helps, bring you back to the present and, focused on what really matters. So we know at this time there's so much uncertainty and anxiety taking place. We know at this time there's so much anxiety that, is taking place because we're so afraid of what is going to happen in tomorrow, what is going to happen next week. But I want to reassure you all that, that everyone that is listening, that this too shall pass. Be kind to yourself, be kind to your mind, take care of yourself. If you experience extreme severities of anxiety, seek professional psychological help. There's so many ways you could get that help through SPA. Even the Trinidad Association of Psychologists, they have sent out a list of names and numbers that you can contact So don't hesitate. Reach out to someone because we're all in this together and you are not alone. You know, be positive and stay COVID negative.
Yes.
That was you.
Okay. Yeah, and you said it all. Like that is very true. Like we need to really take that into consideration and look at the things that it have out of besides your phone. Yes, we say stay connected because I know most persons gonna say, oh, but they tell us to stay connected, but then how am I feeling this way? Like I'm so overwhelmed. I'm only seeing stuff about the news and this and that. But you have to know when to take a break and
Yeah.
pace yourselves and basically if you find that if you look at your phone every 3 hours or something and you keep seeing stuff about COVID and how much people are dying, then you need to talk to yourself and say, listen, you know what? Let me put it down for the evening, and I wouldn't go back on my phone or on that application that have that information, and because that's the thing. Your phone have different applications, and you could set certain things like
Yeah.
the notification if you don't want to hear or see anything to do with COVID, right? And still stay connected with your friends that make you feel comforted. So there are ways because I know people they would misunderstand we're talking in the broad terms, and we had to break it down, and make them understand that yeah, stay connected because it will help you with that emotional support, but also take away the screen time from the things that are negatively impacting you, basically, right? So I
And like
have,
Instagram, I find
yeah,
that
go
you
ahead.
can like limit yourself if you feel like you spend more time
Yeah,
on like Instagram. There's a limit you can
yeah,
set
yeah,
for like an hour, 2 hours, however long you wish. So when you see that, it's like
definitely.
kind of like you spend so much time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there are so many things in the settings. Like you just want to go play up with it. Go play up with it and set your boundaries then for yourself so that you feel like you are in control and that the world is not taking over you in your emotional mind or mental state. So you are in control of that and I'm saying that it is possible for you to keep that balance and not feel of course I'm not saying that you're not going to feel these emotions. We all feel it. I am not perfect. I feel it. Everybody feel it, right? I'm sure Samantha and Stephanie feel it too, right? We
Of
are
course.
all going through it at this time, but it is very important that we use the when somebody say do over study hard but study smart, do the same concept here when you're using your phone. Right, use the settings to set your limits and your boundaries so that you can help yourself and your mental state much better. And trust me, it does make a difference when you're not seeing that notification constantly popping up. Say, okay, alert, breaking news, or CNC3 thing come up, just slide across, like take off those things, right? Because you're hearing it. I'm sure I hear it downstairs on my TV when my parents put it on. And sometimes it's be like, oh my God, we hear this a million times. Like, we are home, we're doing the right thing. So you have to know how to navigate yourself, to help balance and sustain you and make sure that your mental health is in check and that you're not going crazy. And if you feel like that and you can't seem to or know how to maneuver yourself, reach out. We are here to assist you at at any time. Just reach out. There's so many places, like Stephanie said, even to our pages, and even if we cannot help in whatever circumstance it is, we will always direct you to somebody else, who you could actually go and get this help from. So enough of me talking. I have one more question to pose to Stephanie. So I want to ask, so how can someone balance washing their hands enough and not become too obsessive about it or develop OCD? So take it away, my
So
dear.
this is a very interesting question. And because washing our hands and sanitizing is the norm. It's the most important
Right.
thing right now in our
And it's
lives.
hygiene too, because before COVID,
Yeah,
I'm sure your mother and father, since
even
you're
before
growing up, would
COVID.
tell you, wash your hands, right, before you eat. So, go on.
Now, firstly, it's important to know what is OCD, which is obsessive compulsive disorder. Now, it's normal on occasion to go back and double check the iron when it's unplugged, or
Right.
worry
Yeah.
about if you might get contaminated by germs, or even
Yeah.
have that occasional unpleasant thoughts But if you suffer from OCD, obsessive thoughts and compulsive behavior become so consuming that it interferes your daily life. So what is OCD? It is an anxiety disorder as well, and it is characterized by uncontrollable, unwanted thoughts and ritualized repetitive behaviors you feel compelled to perform. So to help you understand OCD, I like to put it this way. So like a needle getting stuck on an old record, OCD causes the brain to get stuck on a particular thought or urge. For example, a person may check the stove 20 times over and over because they're afraid of their house burning down.
Right.
Or even terrified of germs. Someone might just continuously wash their hands till it bleed. Now, while you don't derive any sense of pleasure from performing these repetitive behaviors, they only offer temporary and passing relief for the individual. It's temporary. And persons may try to avoid situations or it may worsen their symptoms by self-medicating or using alcohol and drugs. So the difference between obsessions and compulsions, we need to understand the both different. So obsessions are basically the involuntary thoughts that we think, right? The things that we can't control in our mind and we can't change. The negative thoughts that come in to our head that we cannot stop. And compulsions is the way we act. It's our behavior. So compulsions are the rituals or the repetitive behaviors that you use to curb the obsessive thoughts. Now, OCD is a cycle. It's a vicious cycle that continues over and over. So it begins from having the obsessive thoughts where you develop anxiety because, you start to worry and panic. And then you have that compulsion, which is the behavior that you try to use to help alleviate the obsessive thoughts. And then you just have temporary relief, right? Now it continues over and over and over because the relief is temporary and not permanent. So there are several categories of OCD, right? Some, for example, are the washers who continuously wash their hands, the checkers who continuously check to see if the stove is off, counters and arrangers who are just obsessed with order and symmetry. Now, it's important to note that because you have obsessive thoughts or perform compulsive behaviors, it does not mean that you are diagnosed with OCD. For someone to be diagnosed with OCD, they have to have that obsessive thoughts and compulsive behavior repeatedly over and over time. So,
and
they're also individuals
properly by a professional.
Yeah, they need to be diagnosed by a
prolonged period of time to make sure that it's not just a random thing that you do, but it's something that could, actually affect your whole life.
It needs to be diagnosed by a psychologist or anybody trained in the field of psychology and psychiatry. So, there are individuals who also they don't have the both. They just have one. So some persons may just have the obsessive thoughts and others just have the compulsions. So OCD is kind of like in the DSM-5, it's kind of very like strange. But it's so interesting to know that, this is something that is affecting us and could affect us mentally because washing our hands becomes so important to us that to stop the spread of COVID-19. Now, the coronavirus outbreak has turned many of us into nervous germaphobes, like myself. So, like, I just rather wash my hands.
The whole thing.
Seeking to protect ourselves from infection by washing our hands methodically and frequently, avoiding unnecessary contact with so-called high-touch surfaces, and methodically sanitizing packages or homes and our bodies. So, for people diagnosed with OCD already, this has become very stressful to them because it has affected them really negatively. Do you know that there are instances, there are cases that around the globe that individuals, they become so scared and that they continuously wash their hands until it until it's dry, until it starts bleeding, until it sores. There's actually a case in America where someone, she was so afraid of being contracting the COVID-19 virus that she washed her hands with strong detergents, and she ended up in the hospital because the obsessive thought is so strong that she thinks that water and soap is not enough to help curb the virus. So, and there are also the individuals who, you know, they are home alone and continuously washing their hands 5 minutes. So now it's important. Like I said, washing our hands is so crucial and it's important. But we need to also take care of our minds. We need to also take care of our minds and, you know, take care of ourselves mentally and emotionally. So, the for people diagnosed with OCD, the worry created by the threat of the pandemic has the potential for more intense and long-lasting implications, where in later years it will continuously to negatively affect them, and it's going to have a long-lasting impression in their daily lives and how they go about it, their daily lives, because they're so afraid that, you know, something is going to happen, and like soap and water and sanitizer is not enough, that they go to the extreme to, you know, where it comes to them physically harming themselves. Now, washing your hands and sanitizing, like I said, is very crucial, but for the safety of ourselves and others. But it's important, as much as we're managing the spread of COVID-19, we do it in a productive way, using a sound mind and understanding that it's also important that we stay saying that our emotional and mental well-being matters. And a lot of mental health professionals, they have conducted research where they indicated that it's very hard for them to treat persons who have OCD at this time where we are faced with a global pandemic, because, you know, washing our hands is so crucial. But I'm going to share some tips that you could try at home to help you calm down when you are faced with an obsessive thought or compulsion. So first of all, it's important that you challenge obsessive thoughts. So write down your obsessive thoughts. Keep a pad or a pencil, or type on your smartphone. When you begin to obsess, write down all the thoughts or the compulsions. Keep writing as the OCD urges continue, aiming to record exactly what you're thinking, even if you're repeating the same phrases or the same urges over and over again. Writing it down will help you see how repetitive your obsessions are. Writing down the phrase or urge hundreds of times will help you lose its power. Writing down it is much harder work than simply thinking them. So your obsessive thoughts are likely to disappear sooner. So that's a great tip, that you can keep writing it down, that, you know, the obsessive thought will continue to, you know, fade over time. Another great tip is to create an OCD worry pad. Rather than trying to suppress obsessive thoughts and compulsions, develop the habit of rescheduling them. So for example, so we have a whole day for us, 24 hours, right? Take at least an hour, right? That you just schedule that alone, where you could just have your compulsions and obsessive thoughts, right? Now, if you feel during that entire day where you feel as though those thoughts are coming out, postpone them to that particular hour you're going to have those thoughts, right? So in other words,
to put a pause to their thought itself.
Yes. Okay. So in other words, you're putting a pause to it, and then you're just at least taking a half an hour. You're not trying to fix those obsessions or compulsions. Let it happen. But then after that half an hour, you have the rest of the entire day. Use that to think positive thoughts, right? And recognize how you are valued and how you are protected with soap and water and sanitizer, and, you know, retrain your thinking, because retraining our thoughts is so crucial and important, because it helps us, it helps relieve the tension and anxiety.
Yeah.
Yes. Another great tip is to continue challenging your obsessive thoughts. I'm going to share another way that you could try challenging your obsessive thought is to use your worry period, like I just mentioned,
Right.
to challenge negative or intrusive thoughts by asking yourself, what's the evidence that the thought is true? Is it not true? Is it true? Is washing my hands with detergent going to help me? Is soap and water effective? And yes, it is. So it's important that we feed our minds with information and the facts, because it helps alleviate, the misconceptions, the false media, the false news that the media may be sharing. And it's important that we retrain our thinking and, fill our mind with, positive thoughts and, educate and learn more about what is taking place. So ask yourself those questions. Am I hurting myself physically? Am I hurting myself emotionally? Is it worth it? Yes, I'm doing whatever it takes to protect myself and my loved ones, but I also have to protect myself, emotionally and mentally.
Yeah.
And yes. So
I have one question.
another great, yeah.
Sorry to cut you there. I have one question. So, the compulsions itself mentally, right? The thoughts itself, like, is that consciously happening or unconsciously? Because I always wonder that. I mean, I read it in Psych, all kind of stuff, but I've never really understood how does that work in our minds. Is it in its subconscious, consciously, or unconsciously to the person that is suffering from OCD?
It actually happens both ways. It could happen consciously and unconsciously. So, for example, for those who go in the order of obsessive thoughts and compulsions, it may tend to have happen directly, because you have that obsessive thought which contributes to your compulsive behavior.
That they check in every 4
They
times.
know. But then there are individuals who just experience one rather than the both. Some may just experience the the compulsions alone, and they may just do it and not even realizing it.
Right.
So yeah, and then
always
some may just have the obsessive thought. Some may just have the obsessive thought and not act it out. So OCD is a little, it's a lot of like research.
The criteria itself in the DSM-5, like I say, it's a bit strange because when you look at the specific things that they look for, but again, the only difference is a person can have that, right? But it really depends on how long they keep doing it. Like if it is happening a whole 2 years straight, like they're constantly doing it, then we know, okay, nah, that is something different from you regularly just check it to make sure you take off the flat iron before you burn down the house, and stuff like that.
So another great tip too, another great tip too is to record yourself and listen to the obsessions. It might sound a little strange, but once you listen to it, you're just as how you write it, it will continue to disappear. So recount the obsessive phrases, sentence, or story exactly as it comes in your mind. Play the recording back to yourself over time for at least maybe like a 45-minute period each day, until listening to the obsession no longer causes you to feel highly depressed. By continuously confronting your worry or obsession, you will gradually become less anxious. You can then repeat the exercise for little obsessions. And then, it's important, like I said, social support is so crucial at this time. So, reach out to a family member, reach out to, those in a faith-based institution, your co-workers, because social support is so crucial and vital. We can't do it alone. And it's important that we stay connected through technology. And technology is amazing. We have technology to, reach out to others and ask for help. Don't be afraid. And it's also important that so OCD is also linked. One aspect of OCD is stress, right? And when someone has that obsessive thought and compulsive behavior, they become very stressed, and it affects them in their work life, their school life. Now it's important that, again, when someone is stressed, they practice deep breathing exercises, exercise, get enough sleep, because sleep is so important. And practice, mindfulness to become relaxed, because it helps alleviate the tension and the anxiety that someone may be experiencing. So a great way to retrain your thoughts is to be aware of your thoughts. Turn negative into positive thoughts and understand what triggers your anxiety. So by us understanding what may trigger anxiety, so for example, the news coverage, right? It may be a trigger in anxiety. Someone who's already living with an anxiety disorder. But what they could do to help alleviate that trigger is, again, taking screen breaks. So it's important we retrain our thinking and we understand what triggers our anxiety.
Right.
If you experience extreme forms of anxiety and severity where it comes to, for example, like someone who washes their hands with strong detergents, please seek professional psychological help, because it's not okay. And yes, we need to join together to fight the spread and end the spread of COVID-19. But we also need to take care of ourselves mentally and emotionally and do it in an effective way. Wash your hands for cleanliness, but don't disrupt your mental state and retrain your thinking. So I'll just share like 2 examples of how a psychologist can help someone who is OCD, and what is the the form of therapy they use.
Yeah.
So it's exposure and response therapy, which requires repeated exposure to the source of our obsession, and cognitive therapy, which involves helping you realize what triggers the anxiety.
Right.
So there's a lot of mental health, resources available online, the Ministry of Health, the Trinidad and Tobago Association of Psychologists. So, check them out. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others. We really need this to support one another and not break each other down. So keep practicing washing your hands, sanitizing, wearing your mask, social distancing, but be conscious of your mind. Be conscious of your emotional and mental well-being. Do not let your obsessive thoughts result in compulsion that can physically cause harm to your mental distress. It's important you be kind to yourself.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. And I'd even like to reiterate one point, that you have to find out what works for you, because everybody's different, they are unique, and you have to find that within you, because what would work for one person might not work for you. I know I probably say it 101 times on these platforms, but I think it's so important to let you all know that. So yes, thank you very much, Stephanie. Sam, do you want to add anything, my dear?
No, I think we covered everything. I would just say be strong for yourself, but also for those around you. Not everyone is gonna be more emotionally strong and more optimistic. So I think definitely stay positive for yourself and for others, and share that positivity with others, and let others know it is okay not to be okay, and that you are here to help and you are there to support them.
Definitely. Thank you all very much for attending this live that we had, and to our viewers, thank you so much for tuning in. And we have come to the end of our little talk about stress and the COVID-19 pandemic. So I want to reach out and say a warm thank you to IGDS, Psych to Survive, and well, I represent PSGE. So thank you all very much once again, and I hope that this discussion has probably enlightened you or brightened your day to understand that there's hope, and we're gonna get through this, and it's a tough road, but we have to stay strong, and we are here, reach out, and we are gonna continue to lend a helping hand and that support that you may need, and any assistance, feel free to reach out, send us a DM. There's a link in our bio if you want to even become an advocate for mental health, because soon SPA will have elections and whatnot too. So who knows, if you're watching, you might be next. As you know, Stephanie is our former PCMO as well from SPA too. So I just wanted to put that out there that, we are here if you have a clean and genuine heart about the mind and psychology and mental health, it is a safe place to be and to continue spreading the word and starting the conversation. So thank you very much, everybody. So that's all for now.
Thank
If
you
you all
for
have
having me.
any comments or questions, feel free to leave it when I end the live. So thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for having me. Bye.